Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. It's time to call the meeting to order. And this is the Common Council meeting of Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. We've called the meeting to order. The roll has been taken. We have one remote. Okay, otherwise everyone is present. Will you please join me for the pledge of the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is for the council to identify any possible conflicts of interest. Your packet has been out for a day or two, because it's Friday, I believe. If you've looked through it, if you have any possible conflicts of interest, you can tell us about it now. Anybody? No conflicts of interest tonight. Next up is the public comment period and correspondence. I like what the county has. They have the correspondence and remonstratives. So that's when people want to scold the county board, they can have a remonstrative, they can do that. I've often thought we should put that here also. We have one person that signed up to speak in public comments tonight. It's Christopher Hansen. Christopher, would you care to come to the podium and
Good meeting, everybody, council members. My name is Christopher Hansen, and I'm here tonight to address the Police and Fire Commission open position. I'm here for the opportunity for the council to vote me in for that position. I recognize the importance of the police and fire departments in this city to serve the people for health and public safety, and I'm excited for the opportunity for your vote tonight. With that, I'd like to give you a brief background of myself, so give yourselves a little bit better background on myself. I've been a citizen of Marshfield most of my life. Been married to my wife, Renee, for 12 years, and we've lived in the same house for 15. I have two stepchildren who are both in college, one in La Crosse and one in Wilmington, North Carolina Community College. I've been in the auto collision industry for 24 years, 20 of which are at Arts Body Shop. The only years I missed there was when I went to tech school. And I'm proud to say for the last 6 years, I've been an owner of the business with two other gentlemen. I'm also a member of a local club around here, Bakerville Snow Rovers Snowmobile Club, which I've also been a member of most of my life, and I'm currently serving second term as president. The reason these points are important is because they reflect and exemplify core traits that I believe to be important. Honesty, commitment, loyalty, and stability, the foundation of which others can be built upon. I'm not some fly-by-night guy just going to come in here and hopefully you put me on. I'm going to be here to be committed to this commission and to be committed to the citizens of Marshfield. And if the council approves to put me in, that's what you're going to get from me. You're going to get commitment and stability. Thank you for your consideration.
thank you. There are no other speakers requesting time tonight, but this will be another last chance if there's somebody out there that wants to say something. If not, we'll go on to the next thing, which is item E, approval of minutes, May 9th, 2023 and May 18th, 2023. We have a motion by Tompkins, a second by Spiros. Discussion? If not, please vote. Okay.
A voice vote for this one. I'll take the roll call and then I'll get the system set to have a different chair. That's the hang up right now. Fire. Werman.
Yes.
Tompkins. Varsho.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Stauber.
Yes.
Giles.
Yes.
Spiros. Yes. O'Reilly.
Yes.
Rigel.
Yes.
Okay, next is staff updates. Introduction of a new staff member Peggy Lyle, Human Resources Generalist. Sarah?
Good evening. So I definitely wanted to take a moment to recognize Peggy Lyle, who is the newest member of the HR department. So Peggy started with us on the 15th of May in the HR generalist position, and she's coming to us from Land O'Lakes, where she was the HR business partner there. We're thrilled to have her on board and all of the experience that she's going to be bringing. So please help me welcome Peggy Lyle.
Welcome, Peggy. Okay, and then there's another one here, announcement by Chris Howling, Street Superintendent. Chris?
Thank you, President Wagner. First and foremost, all my thoughts and prayers go out to Mayor T. So I know she's probably watching tonight and see our thoughts and prayers are with her tonight. So, was 25 years ago, I stood before the Common Council and was introduced as a city surveyor. Moving my wife and two very young children from the Green Bay area was a difficult decision, but looking back, probably one of the best decisions we've ever made. Matt and Paige thrived here in the city in the Marshfield school district and are both school teachers who have taught in the district. Paige, my daughter, she teaches sixth grade at Grant Elementary, and Matt, former sixth grader teacher at Nasonville, who is now a teacher for the RVA, Rural Virtual Academy. They blessed Lisa and I with a great daughter and son-in-law, Kelsey and Isaac, and so far, 3 beautiful grandbabies, Liana, Eloise, and Paisley. So it goes without saying, after 25 years of service to the city of Marshfield and over 2 years of service with O'Connell County, I'm announcing my retirement, and my last official day of employment will be September 1st of this year. There are so many thank yous to go out after 25 years, and I know I'll miss some, but I'll try not to, so bear with me. First and foremost, to the Common Council members, past and present, thank you for your support. I know there will always be, and there always has been and will always be difficult decisions to be made. I wish you all the best of luck and hope for help through divine intervention or from the state to help our local communities with their fiscal responsibilities. To the guys, I remember taking over as street superintendent, sitting at my desk and wondering if I had made a mistake to lead you guys. We were in a pretty dark place at the time, but looking back, I think we made it fun and enjoyable to come to work again and believe I was chosen for a reason. To Kim, my new admin associate for over a year, who's great, by the way. She greets Tim, Cody, and I every single morning. Good morning! To start our day off on a positive note. She is our bright, shining star of our department. To Tim and Cody, you two are the workhorses of the division. I'm amazed at the positive direction you have taken the street division in your very short tenure as assistants. To the old gang at the engineering division, Dave Shooter-Schuneman, Mary Anderson, Cheryl Othmeyer, Dan Connect, Josh Moritz, Tom Turchi, Bill Siegler, Tim Cassidy, Lance Oldham, Sean Miller. Friendships that will last a lifetime. To all the past and present City Hall workers, Deb Hall, Amy Krogman, Rolly Donath, Ashley, Jessica, Sarah, Steve, Jennifer, Eng, Natalie, Pat, Tom, Dilly, Eng, Matt, Eric, Sean, Bueller, Jordan, Amanda, Beth, Elena, Pam, Tanya. You have all helped me in so many ways I can't thank you enough. To Pete and the fire department crew, Jody and the PD department, Nick and Derek at Marshfield Utilities, Eric and John at the water department, Justin and Ben at Park and Recs, Denise at Mackey, and Kaylee at Main Street. And I apologize to all those I did not mention, but you all helped me in my time immensely. At one point in our past, and the reason why I brought up all these people, there wasn't always that great intergovernmental cooperation between departments, but I hope I changed that. To the citizens of Marshfield, even the ones who called and not saying such nice things to us over the phone or via online, you made the job very interesting at times, but I hope that you were always treated with respect, professionalism, and empathy when needed. I thank you for your time and patience with us. Last but not least, to my wife, Lisa. There is a saying that says, behind every strong man lies a woman who is much stronger and wiser than you. She is the rock, the glue, the foundation to our families. No more missed Christmas holidays. It always snows during Christmas and Thanksgiving. No more waking you up in the middle of the night, phone going off for an emergency, or waking you up because I can't sleep thinking about work. I love you and thank you for taking this journey with me the last 33 plus years. And in closing, I have one last thing for y'all. Number one, be kind to one another. Teach your kids, please, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. You'd be amazed at how these 4 little phrases affect the people you're saying them to. And I thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next up on item F, staff updates, item G, mayor's comments. I think it's appropriate at this time to mention that the mayor has not been feeling well. The mayor is ill, and I'm sorry she couldn't be with us tonight. Hopefully we'll see her back here very soon. There is one employee recognition for this meeting, and it's a 5-year employee, an employee celebrating their 5th year. That's Kayla Wolf in the police department. Kayla, I hope you're listening, and thanks for your service. And next up is council comments. Do we have any comments from the common council? There being none, we will move on to the city administrator's update.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President. I just want to start by dovetailing on what Chris was saying. Chris, it's been a joy and a pleasure to work with you. I've been here 12 years, and whether it was in this building or with you as a street superintendent, you just do a stellar job, and you've been an outstanding employee and a great individual to partner with here at City of Marshfield. So thank you, and we really appreciate you a lot. I'd like to talk about a couple of other things. We've been talking with the department heads lately, and actually EDB's been talking too about making application to Wood County. Wood County provides dollars for economic development related projects through the SEED committee. The deadline is on July 7th. Just want to prep you, you'll be hearing more about this, but we've got some opportunities bubbling up. I know that there's already a couple from Parks and Recreation. Others are being discussed. We're definitely going to get our hats in the ring, so to speak, for dollars to help benefit the city of Marshfield through Wood County financing. Councilmember Stauber brought up about a month ago a couple of items on a request for future agendas. I just want to note that they're both going to be on. They're being slotted for June. Had a conversation at this month's meeting of the emergency preparedness team that we have that involves a lot of our staff, also people from Marshfield Utilities and others who participate in those. So we'll give a report on that, and also be giving an update in terms of our efforts to secure interest in some of our committees, boards, and commissions, which we always have vacancies for. So look for both of those to be on agendas next month. A couple of other things. You did get an email from me. We've talked about it before, having a joint meeting between the council and the EDB on housing. And I've gotten responses from most of you. If you haven't responded to me, please do so. I think I've got 2 or 3 more of you to hear from. Looking at a date in the week of June 12th. Had kind of a mix. Some people are available some days, some people are available other days, but hopefully we'll be able to get a quorum to make one of those days work during the week of June 12th. So again, if you haven't replied, please email me at your earliest convenience. And then finally, one other meeting we'd like to have with the council, not that we're trying to meeting you to death or anything, but this came out of a conversation with the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee. The idea of having a meeting with the council to prepare in advance, well in advance, for the 2024 budget process. I think we all know some of the financial challenges we face right now, and they're fairly daunting in some respects. So rather than wait until September, October, when things start getting real juiced up, we want to have a staff level conversation with the council at a special meeting to talk about just staffing and service levels and just the lay of the land with respect to debt and what we're facing. Get some input from the council as staff begins the process. You don't see the budget until the fall, but we work on it substantially in July and August. We want to know what the council is interested in seeing and really partner with you early on in the 2024 budget process. Looking at either the week of June 5th, which I realize is really close, or the week of June 26th. June 5th would be, we could look at maybe follow up to the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee meeting on the 6th, take a little break, and then go into a special session with this. Or like I said, if there's not a date that works during the week of June 5th, we could look at a week later in the month. So I will send you a follow-up email on this in the morning. Please respond to me at your earliest convenience so that we can get something on the docket. I think that'll be a beneficial session for all of us in advance of the tough conversations this fall. And that's all I have.
Any questions? I've got a short one. I think I saw an annotation that for that joint meeting of the council and the EDB, that the CDA was also invited. Is that what it was?
They're also being invited as well to sit in on that. We're kind of calling it a joint EDB council meeting, but inviting the CDA to be in the room at the table for that meeting as well. And that ties back to not just the Second Street corridor, but other opportunities that might someday involve housing and redevelopment.
Right. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on. Reports from commissions, boards, and committees. Any of the, Mr. Pinker, are you? I think this is fire and police.
Yes.
That feeling.
I think you're right.
Good evening. Some comments from the Fire and Police Commission. At the May meeting, the commissioners voted to delay the election of officers until the new commissioner is approved and seated. At the present time, I will be serving as the president pro tem for the commission. You may have attended the police memorial ceremony last week. If you did not, please view that if it's on television. Chief Garink and Sheriff Becker had some excellent comments that they made. And on behalf of the police department, our law enforcement partners and the commission, to all of those in the audience and in the council who did attend, thank you very much. Your support is greatly appreciated. And related to that, let me just note that in Wisconsin this year, 4 law enforcement officers have been murdered in the line of duty. 3 of those occurred in western Wisconsin, 1 occurred in Milwaukee. And at the same time period as the 3 deaths in western Wisconsin, a Minnesota deputy was also murdered. And interestingly enough, the day before our memorial ceremony, the Chicago Police Department laid to rest one of their officers. She was murdered by 4 teenage boys, one of those so young the newspapers and television could not print his picture. As one of the commentators mentioned at the funeral, for the 2 officers that were most recently killed, this is evil, and there's evil out there. And it's something to be aware of. Relative to one of the comments that Chris made about saying thank you, Bishop Sheen once noted, what is hatred? Hatred is but love turned upside down. We got to make sure love is turned right side up. And if you take a look at the word evil, it's an anagram. Arrange the letters one way and you have live. Arrange them another way, you have bile. So the public really has got a choice. You can pick 2 words. Love and live. Moving on to something that's a little bit lighter. This is National EMS Week, recognizing those that are in the emergency medical services, Deputy Chief is over here. Please hug him on the way out. Thank you very much. And all the commissioners hope that we have a quick resolution to the vacancy that's on the commission. Thank you very much.
Okay, next, any other boards or commissions wish to give us a report? That's it? Okay, moving on, we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda is before you. What's your pleasure? Oh, there are, I'm not used to this. It actually works. That's the problem. Okay, so we have a motion by Stauber and a second by Tompkins. Is there any discussion? If not, please vote.
Mr. Varsho,
Yes.
fix that, Ed, are you a yes?
Thank you. Okay, it looks like it passed. And zip, right? Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, next up is there are no items pulled from the consent agenda. Therefore, we'll go to item M, which is the presentation of concerning the municipal mutual insurance partnership introduced by Jennifer Selensky. Jennifer?
Good evening. With so many new faces on our council, I thought it prudent that we have a review of our insurance policies that we currently have with the city. As we prepare for the upcoming budget and going out for quotes for insurance services, I thought it would be good to have a little information session on what we currently have and why. So with us tonight is Daryl Zaleski with Spectrum Insurance Group.
Okay, thank you very much, Jennifer. So I'm going to try to keep this to about 20 minutes. I did this presentation to the utility a few months ago, and Jennifer sat in, and that was an hour. We got into a lot of details, and out of respect for your time, that's probably not appropriate here, but you have a lot of the details. I'm going to refer to a lot of things within your packet, but I'm going to try to keep it more on a high level view of this, and then I can answer any specific questions that you have as well. So I think it's important to start out with explaining what my role is, what my agency does, and what the insurance company does. So my name is Daryl Zaleski. I own Spectrum Insurance Group, and that is an agency that represents the League of Wisconsin Municipalities Mutual Insurance. So my agency handles all of the municipalities that participate in the program basically from Bayfield, the northernmost point of Wisconsin, over here to central Wisconsin, and then down to around the La Crosse area. And then everything west is the territory that we service from multiple locations. Myself and a few other people handle the league program. I've been in municipal insurance I had to do the math on the drive over here. I believe it's 33 years that I've worked specifically in municipality and school district for some point, but mainly municipalities. I had an experience with a company called Wausau Insurance. And that leads me to where I am today, because prior to the league program, the municipal program that was established by the League of Wisconsin Municipalities was run by Wausau Insurance. Wausau Insurance no longer exists as a company. It was purchased by Liberty Mutual. And back in 2002 is when the league, the association, decided that they wanted to go in a different direction, and they wanted to start their own insurance company. For various reasons. So I believe the city of Marshfield goes back all the way back into the Wausau days. pre-2002. My records that I can get are only back to 2002. So I have not worked with the city the entire time. Our territory, Spectrum's territory increased over the, it was around 2016, I believe. There was another agency handled an exclusive territory, and the league parted ways with that agency and the league asked if I would take over this territory, which we gladly did. And so I worked with Keith Stry and Ron Allman, and now Jennifer, and of course, Steve here. So been working with the city for quite a while. When we talk, so hopefully that makes sense as far as my role and who your insurance company is. So I bring the products to you from the league. I think it's important for you to, as you look through your packet, and we're going to go through a couple of those slides on that league mutual insurance. I was at the league policyholder conference last week. And that's a conference that's held every year for policyholders like the city of Marshfield to attend. And there are a lot of updates. There's discussion on programs, on the insurance program in general, what the goal is, how it's working, what's not working. And so it's a really good 2.5 day convention that I certainly recommend in future years for somebody from the city to attend, because it is worthwhile. The league mutual insurance was started in its own company in 2002. One of the factors that was very important was to have the best coverage that would be available in the marketplace. If you think about this program, all it is for cities and villages in the state of Wisconsin. That's all this insurance company does. So it's not a typical insurance company that offers, other industries. This is strictly for municipalities. And you, as the city, as a participant, as a member of the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, this is your program. You own this program through the league trust, and you participate in it through your purchasing the policies through the league. So I think that's very important to realize, is that the board of directors of the league insurance is made up of your peers. The board is made up of individuals, mayors, council people, administrators from various municipalities throughout Wisconsin. And they represent your interests. And I think you have to keep that in mind, in the fact that they are looking out for your best interests, and they are your peers. When you look at other insurance companies, just general insurance companies, they all have board of directors. But I can tell you, they're maybe not always looking out for your best interests. And that's what I think is very unique about this program, is that you have representation of your peers on this, and they are constantly looking out for, feedback from you, coverages that can be improved, and we'll go through a couple of those that have morphed over the last few years. But if we, did I just click that? Yeah, there we go. These are some of the slides that were at the policyholder meeting. All I want you to do on this one is just to see that we share our financials all the time. We are very transparent because this is your program. You own this program. So you can see in 2022, there was a net income of $474,000. That's exactly where they want to be. And I'll show you some more slides in this, but the overriding purpose of this slide is to let you know that your program is in very good financial stance. If we go to the next page, this is the member benefits that are available to municipalities that participate in the league program. You can see the money that is paid back to the city of Marshfield, Marshfield Utilities, the city of Wisconsin Rapids. The largest line item is, of course, the dividend. And I'll just take a quick minute to explain the dividend so we all understand what that is. So if you think of the league program, think of it as what I call a net cost program. insurance companies are for-profit operations, right? You have your business insurance with Travelers or your homeowner's insurance with West Bend. They are for-profit companies and they have to generate a profit. The league program is it's not a nonprofit, but it's designed as an association benefit to you as a not-for-profit. It does have to generate profit because it has to report to the officer, the commissioner of insurance, and there's regulatory requirements. So we do have to have a profit. But the overriding goal is, again, it's a net cost approach. And what I mean by that is you collect all the premium from all the participating members throughout the state of Wisconsin. You put all that money in a pot. And then with that pot, claims are paid out for the year, right? Expenses are paid out. Claims administration, safety, loss control, the agency. Those expenses are pulled out of the pot as well. Whatever remains in the pot at the end of the year is returned to the participating members in the form of a dividend, okay? Now, there's profit that's left in there, but the goal of the league program is to be a very cost-effective program for you and not to be concerned with profit margins, okay? So you'll see that this is, and I've got a slide coming up that shows the dividend history. But again, remember, this net cost approach is very, very important. Some of the other programs that we have is, it says Rebound, and I think the city is using Ready Rebound. This is new to the league. It's a provider network of occupational doctors, and they do a lot of extra things. They leave appointments open for, is it fire and police? Are we using it? The whole city is using it. That's great. It's voluntary, but we provide this wonderful service. It's relatively new to the league program, but you can see it's one of our larger benefits. We have safety equipment grants. I'll show you in one of our other pages the amount of money that we've returned. I'm going to show you the amount of dividends that have been returned to the city, but also the safety grants. We provide 2% of your workers' comp premium back to you every year for you to buy safety equipment. I mean, I think this is really good stuff. It helps you keep your safety culture and it helps you try to have safe work environment, right? We also have what we call a law enforcement reimbursement. What we do is reimburse each municipality. If you use Lexipol, I think it's a $2,500 reimbursement of your annual Lexipol or similar to Lexipol if you use somebody other than Lexipol. We reimburse you for that. We also just recently started a DART police program. This is a video screen that it's a simulator that walks the police department through active shooter scenarios. And we have 4 of these, we purchased 4 of these things and they can be loaned out to the city. So we hope you use that at some. Have you heard of the DART program? Yeah, okay. It's really cool. It was at the league convention and everybody was trying it. Then we also have HR and legal support. So if you have any HR issues that you can call the league insurance and they'll have attorneys on staff as well. All right, on the next page, when we talk about premium, again, I've mentioned that one of the overriding philosophies of the league program is for rate stability, okay? So you can budget appropriately. And I thought this was a good slide to show you since 2016, what the league has in aggregate tried to do to the rates to the program. The gold line is what we call auto physical damage. So your comp and your collision rates. The blue line is your liability. So that's general liability, your law enforcement liability, the public officials liability that protects the council, and auto liability. So you can see since 2016, in 17, we had a 1.5%, 18, 2%. And then you can see for 19, 20, 21, and 22, we had a 0 rate increase. And that's unheard of. That's unheard of in our industry. Just think of your homeowners or your business insurance. I can guarantee you that has not been flat like that. Now, starting in 2023, you do see that we did have a slight increase. We had a 2% increase in the liability and a 4% increase in the auto physical damage. And you can see also what we're tracking is the average inflation rate. So there's a lot of things going on in the macro environment today. Inflation hits insurance. When you have automobile accidents, parts are more expensive, cars are more expensive, there's electronics, there's cameras on bumpers now. It costs more when you have a claim with your auto than it has in the past. But overall, I think you would agree that that's a very, very stable rate structure. So what I'd like you to do now is in your packet on the left-hand side, there's a summary, a premium summary. And what I've done is I thought it would be good to kind of go back and look what actually was the Marshfield, city of Marshfield, what premiums have you paid over the years? And so I went back from 2017. That's the first year that we handled it, or it might have been the second year, but that's all I could fit on my page. So you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The last 7 years of your premiums for all of your coverages or all of your policies. And on the very bottom of that, you can see it says LWMMI premium. So what I'm pulling out there is those are the premiums for the liability policies that the league actually controls. And I'll explain that in a second here. So that's about from 17 to where we are today, that's about an 8% increase in your liability premium. Again, that is extremely low. That is unheard of in today's world. It's just incredible. Now, are there problems in our industry as well that affects the league program? You bet. So you can see that the liability, those first 5 coverages that you have, very stable, extremely stable. The crime policy is through Travelers Insurance. The league is coming out with its own crime program for 2024. Again, feedback that you've given the board members, and the league is now saying, yeah, we want to do the crime policy as well. The property policy that says MPIC next to it. This is the problem area. This is industry-wide. There are a lot of claims in property insurance. We have Midwestern claims that are through the roof for the league, for any insurance company. Anybody that is in the insurance business and is writing property insurance, buildings, your outdoor equipment, your personal property, is losing money. It's horrible. And it's because of convective storms in the Midwest. And yes, even hurricanes in Florida affects your premium here in the Midwest. And the reason why is that when we had, last year we had Hurricane Ian and many other ones. And think of it this way, when there's a $40 billion hurricane in Florida, what happens is insurance companies pay their claims, and then insurance companies, they also buy insurance. Okay, it's called reinsurance. Reinsurance, all it is an insurance company buying insurance on themselves. So they will take on, so an insurance company will take, let's just say, the first $30 million of a catastrophic claim. And then the rest goes to the insurance that they bought. Okay. Reinsurance is contracting. There are less reinsurance companies today than there were a couple years ago because they're losing money. So you think of Lloyd's of London. Think of Lloyd. We've all heard of Lloyd's of London as a large. They're basically a reinsurance company among many, many others. And what they do is they go out to investors and say, we're going to raise capital and we're going to provide reinsurance to the insurance companies. The capital has dried up. Investors are not putting money into reinsurance. So reinsurance is going away. Okay, so when we have a contraction of what we call capacity, what happens? When there's fewer reinsurance companies out there, supply and demand, right? Reinsurance premiums go up. So when an insurance company gets their renewal from the reinsurance company, they're getting 10, 15, 20% increases on the premiums that they're being charged. So a logical person will tell you what? That the insurance company passes on those costs, right? Pretty simple. So that's what's going on in the property market. Now, when we have MPIC, I just want to explain the history of MPIC. That stands for Municipal Property Insurance Company. I don't know if Steve, I don't know if you were around years ago when the local government property fund was around. You remember this?
Yes.
The state fund. The state of Wisconsin owned a property insurance company. And they owned it specifically to provide property insurance to governmental entities in Wisconsin. It's a quasi state-run insurance company. And it provided property insurance to municipalities, school districts, counties, and towns. Well, about 10 years ago, the state fund lost all of its money. It went belly up. So the league responded and said, okay, we have members that need property insurance. So we scrambled and put together a separate property insurance company called Municipal Property Insurance Company. The league owns 1/3 of that, okay? And two other municipal insurance that they do more self-insured type programs. They are the other 1/3 owner of MPIC. So we bring the property insurance to you. It's not a league. It's different than what the league program is. It's just that the league owns the property, 1/3 of the property insurance. And they tailored this program after the state fund or the local government property program because it provided exceptionally good coverage. And it was underpriced, apparently, what we found out. So the same philosophy applies to the property insurance. We're shooting for rate stability. We want the best coverages that are available, and we do. The state fund had the best coverages, and so we adopted their policy forms and coverages. So we have those best coverages, but we have the same problems that I talked about a minute ago with the rest of the insurance companies selling property insurance. MPIC's claims are very high. They have a lot of storm damage. We've had a lot of hailstorms in Wisconsin, tornadoes, wind, reinsurance problems. So when we look at our rate increases on this schedule, again, remember the league is very stable. We have seen some increases in the property, and that's an industry-wide problem. But we're trying to keep it as minimal as possible, okay? Do you want to take a second to ask any questions about your premiums? Or I'm going to be very careful about the time. I'm sure you got a lot of other things other than insurance on your minds, but.
Just
I think Mr. Stauber wanted to be recognized.
Thank you. Just a quick question. You mentioned storm damage, and I know the utility in Marshfield does a fantastic job in trimming trees and avoiding down power lines. Are there any special considerations for utilities like Marshfield Utility that maybe a special cut on the premium or discount?
The problem is more on hail and roof damage and wind damage, ripping off roofs and tornadoes. So it's not really trees falling. That's probably pretty minor in the bigger picture of things, but it's more, roofs are very expensive now. And as you know, building materials on your buildings has gone up tremendously. What used to cost $5 million to rebuild today, now that costs $7 million. And so that inflation and we have to pay that claim at $7 million because you have a blanket limit of 100 and your TIV is, I think, 100 and, it's over 100 million. we have that blanket limit to apply to any building. So that building costs 7 million to replace. We pay it at 7 million, not at 5 million, like it says on your, Jennifer would know what the statement of values looks like where it lists all your properties, but good question. Behind that premium summary is just a nice, it's a good white page that I did for a magazine on the reinsurance problem that we have going on here today. So if you want to read that before you go to sleep tonight, I'm sure you'll be sleeping in 5 minutes. So. All right. Let's go on. Oh, yeah. So, oops. What did I do here?
Anybody else? Natasha?
Thank you. I pressed my button.
Oh, great.
I just wondered on page 3, which was the page before that, you had said that the liability was going up, the premium for the liability insurance was going up, but it looks like in 2018, that blue line is at 2%, and in 2023, it's also at 2%. Am I reading that correctly?
So those would be the incremental increases each year.
Oh, this is the
Yeah, so
incremental.
it's based on, it's an increment over the previous year.
Yes, correct.
Year over.
Year over year, correct.
Thank
So, okay, good. Sorry about that. So this was also presented at the league, and there are insurance companies. There are a handful, not many, that will offer insurance to municipalities. And this was put together. I don't know what company they're referencing. I wasn't given that, but this was I thought it was an interesting page that shows what a competitor of ours is doing on average on rates. And you can see that their property insurance this year has been going up 8% on average, and their liability, no change in the general liability. The public officials, 6.5%. Law enforcement is going up almost 15%. Auto liability, auto physical damage, almost 15%. And so you can see some of the issues that are going on where we're trying to keep our rate increases at a minimal and still continue as a very functioning business. When it says combined all funds, 5.8%, that's the average increase for all of the similar type funds throughout the United States. So Wisconsin has the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. Minnesota has the Minnesota League. So all of what we call state funds that sell to municipalities in each state. So we're kind of benchmarking ourselves against commercial insurance companies. So that's what that one means. Okay, I want to talk about the member count. You can see our program has been growing on a nice pace. We have a finite number of cities and villages in Wisconsin. I don't know what that number is. I think it might be close to 600. So you can see when the program started, 2002, 2003, we had about 210 members. Through 2022, we have 489, and right now we have 500 members. And why do I bring this slide up? I go to a lot of council meetings. I go to a lot of municipalities. And I understand that council members have local pressure from what we call local agents, right? If you think about this, we have 500 municipalities that are stating that, yeah, we understand we have to support local agents, but we have 500 municipalities that said it's more important to be with the league and maybe not be with a local agent. I'm not local. This program is yours, but I think it's important to note that you really need to be with you've been with the program forever, so you understand that this is very specialized coverage. When you're dealing with public officials' claims, with zoning, discrimination, when you have the perpetual tax assessment lawsuits that come in every January, we provide the defense to those tax assessment claims. And we pay those every year when Menards or Walmart, we have the list of the actors, CVS, Walgreens, they all do it. You've got them too. We defend those for you. And we pay the defense of those. There's no damage awards, but we pay the defense. And so it's very, very specialized coverage. And I think you understand the value of the league program of why, again, you could have gone to a local agent years ago, but you have shown your past that you do, or at least as the office knows, that you do understand that the league does have exceptional coverages. Any questions on that? I'm going to help. Am I running out of time? Am I boring everybody? No? I got you all captivated. The next page shows the dividends again. But just remember, if we look at 2021 and 2022, the CEO of the league program, Matt Becker, really likes that net income after dividends. That blue, when it's small like that, he likes that. And that's the goal, is to keep the profit as low as possible, but yet enough to add to surplus to keep the business going. In 16, 17, that's when we first kind of started with the dividends. That profit is too high. We want to keep the money in the municipality's hands right up front. So we want competitive pricing up front on the get-go, and not wait until the dividend is paid at the end of the period, or at the next year you get the return premium, because all that money went into the pot, right? We paid the claims out, and there was a pot of money in there. We return that to you, but we want upfront pricing to be as competitive as possible. You know, I'm going to stay right here because in the other side of this, this is the details for the city, and I'm not going to go through all this, but I would direct you to page it says the group dividend plan. I think it's about 4 pages in. Everybody find that? What I want to point out here is I've got the specifics for the city of Marshfield here. So you can see where it says dividend plan history. The league, since 2006, has paid back the city of Marshfield $738,564 in dividends, okay? Return premium. So basically about a year, you've gotten a year free with return dividends. I think that's very impressive. Now, I also put in, we talked about the safety grants that we have. I didn't total that up, but you can see you get about $7,000 a year back from just submitting invoices for a stretcher, or a manhole cover lift, or anything, back braces, anything safety related. We've paid back some, $30,000, $40,000 there. And then 2 years ago, we had a parks, this was during COVID, I think, we had a Parks and Rec grant where we paid back the city $20,000 to spend on Parks and Rec improvement. So these are all benefits of the league program. So I wanted to show you the more specifics about how it relates specifically to the city of Marshfield. So. This is just our policyholders' surplus. We have to maintain a certain amount of cash or premium to pay claims. And you can see that has risen, although we did lose $2 million of surplus because of the increased claims that we have had in the last year or so. But still very, very good surplus to premium ratio there. And then dividend as a percentage of premium, you can see we're benchmarking ourselves here against the other state programs in the various states. We want to be right in the middle. We think that's the best place to be, and that shows that we're right in the middle compared to the other state programs. Claim count, this is the number of claims that we had in 2022. You can see we had reported 773 claims for workers' comp, liability, as I say, 650, and physical damage, auto physical damage, 250 claims. So we know what we're doing from a claims, and you can see then here, since 2002, the number of claims that we've adjudicated, 18,000 workers' comp claims. So we've seen a few workers' comp claims in the past, and liability claims, 14,000. I think I'm going to try to wrap it up here, but I would, and just to give you a little bit more of education, where we see claim issues. So in Wisconsin, we have what's called statutory cap protection or tort protection. And somebody sues the city of Marshfield in the state court system for a liability claim. There's a state cap of $50,000 per claimant. So that's the most that an injured person can recover from the city per person. Auto liability, there's a $250,000 cap. So a city employee takes a city vehicle, rams into another vehicle, injures the other person, and they're severely injured. The most they can recover is $250,000. That's great protection for the city. And the reason you have those protections is the state legislature has said, nobody else is going to be able to run the city, so we need to give some protections to the city to protect what you do, okay? We also have some immunities. We have recreational immunity, okay? And recreational immunity means that the city runs parks, right? And if you're going to run a park, nobody else can run a park. So if you're going to have a park, the state legislature is going to give the city immunity from prosecution. You cannot sue the city of Marshfield for somebody that gets injured in a recreation type of activity at one of your parks and rec. We have other great immunities as well. We have discretionary immunity. So you have a sewer main and you decide to put in a 12-inch pipe and you come to find out that, geez, that wasn't big enough. And you probably should have put a 20-inch pipe in. The state legislature gives you immunity because you used your discretion and said, this is what we think is appropriate. So we have wonderful state cap and immunity protections in Wisconsin, and that keeps your premiums low as well. Where we run into problems are when claims go into the federal court system. So think of the zoning claims, civil rights claims, all of the law enforcement claims that we have, for the most part, will go to federal court. Violation of civil rights, right? We lose our state cap protection of $50,000 there. So that's where, and we're seeing a lot of what we call social inflation. Jury awards, even in Wisconsin, are giving higher and higher awards to people that are injured, and specific to a municipality. So again, we lose our state cap protection for law enforcement claims. So we're seeing some heartburn there. And you can see in that, when I gave you that comparison of the rate increases from a competitor, they're obviously seeing that because they were showing rate increases of 15% in the law enforcement. So we are seeing social inflation there. There are the zoning claims, as I mentioned. Some of our biggest claims are land use claims, all right? A developer was denied, the development, and they sue the city because one of the city council members didn't like that developer. We've seen huge $1 million awards for those land development claims, okay? So you have great protection. You have, as council members, the public officials policy protects you. Decisions that you make as a council. The other policies, the liability policies, protect you from accidents, accidental injuries. But if you think of the public officials policy for you, it's decisions that you make and they're considered wrongful acts, and somebody sues the city and says, the city council decided to do this, and that has wronged me, okay? Those are your public officials claims. And we see a lot of those. We not just in general, I'm not speaking specifically about the city of Marshfield, but we're seeing more and more claims against city council. And if I could, I'm going to try to wrap this up. Yeah. I would, we have a really good video, and I'm not sure if you've shown this, but if there's any new council members on here, we do have a video that kind of goes through what you should and shouldn't do as a council member. And one of the overriding factors is that you're here to govern and to oversee, but don't cross that line into the administrative day-to-day functions. You have a staff that does that. You have an incredible administrator. I've worked with many, and Steve is as good as there is, and Jennifer. Let the staff do their job, because I've seen far too many claims from council members overstepping their bounds and getting involved in day-to-day problems. They have, employment claims. We need to get rid of this person. They're disgruntled. We just need to fire them because I don't like her. We have those claims, and you haven't obviously done that. But I'm telling you, in general, those are the type of claims that we see. So the advice that I would give you as a council person would be to govern and let the staff do their job, and that will keep you and the council from getting sued. If you do get sued individually because of your duties as a council member, so think of it, a lawsuit comes in, it names the city of Marshfield, and then you personally. The league does defend you as a council person if you're named individually in a lawsuit. And that applies to any employee of the city, police officers or anybody. If the city is named and the individual is named, we defend both under our defense costs. So I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I encourage you to review the information in greater detail. My card is in there. You can certainly email me if you have any questions. You can call me. I have probably seen just about everything in municipal insurance. So I'm going to open it up for any additional questions.
Ms. Tompkins.
Thank you for your presentation. First, it would be great if you could email the link to that video. That would be fantastic.
I will get it to Jennifer.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I do have a question. So off the top of your head, do you know what our annual premiums are?
Well, they're in that spreadsheet on the other side there.
Okay, it's right here.
Yeah, that looks like this.
So for this year, it's 800. Okay. So when you give a dividend back, is there a formula? Is there a certain percentage that everyone gets, or is it by how many people? Or
yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, the dividend is paid on the liability, the law enforcement, public officials, the auto, the no-fault sewer backup. We can talk about no-fault, the sewer water backup if you want, and the workers' comp. And there's a formula, but what it comes back to you is a percentage of your premium. Okay, so the league will say we're declaring a 10% dividend. So we add up your premiums for those policies, those coverages, and let's just say it's $500,000. And then they say we're declaring a 10% dividend, you would get $50,000 back. Make sense?
Yeah, so do we usually, so if we have about 26,000, it looks like, between the dividend and the safety grant. So would it be about 3%? Do you think we're getting back as a dividend?
Well, I don't know what your I don't have that I'd have to get, I do have the specifics, but I just don't have,
But it changes every year?
it
is that
does,
right?
it does.
And
Yeah,
it's
'cause
just
you-
by profit and things like that?
Exactly, whatever money is left. But we're trying to be very, as I said, we're trying to keep the profit at a certain level, and then the dividend is supposed to be more consistent, so.
Do
you know.
cities get more back if they have less claims, or is it just across the board?
Good question. Half of the dividend is the overall, performance of the total program, and then 50% is your individual claims experience. Great question. Great question.
And then just, sorry, one more question I have from page 5. Yeah, from page 5. So you have the 9.5%, that is the increase. Is that right for this year? Or is that just the change?
That's, being on that graph?
No,
Which
it's the
one?
one with the rate comparison to others.
Oh, okay.
So the liability, I'm assuming that's, this insurance is positive 9.4%. Is that right? Is that for the year 2000?
That combined liability of 9.4%, that is what the competitor of ours is charging.
Oh,
Ours, we don't have ours to that, but it's the combined all funds is all of the funds throughout the country. Our average increase, not just the league, but all the municipal funds, we're averaging 5.8% for an increase, yeah.
okay. And so for you, do you know what your average will be?
Well, if you go back to that, that graph, this one here, you can see that we were averaging, in 2023, we took 4% on the auto physical damage, 2% on the liability premiums.
All right.
And then prior to that, there was no increase for 22, 21, 20, or 19. So we had a 4-year period where we had no rate increase, yeah,
Thank you.
which again is unheard of.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Mr. Stauber and then Mr. Werman.
2 quick questions, more for curiosity, but has the introduction of recreational use vehicles on our streets had any impact on our premium? And the second question, just historically, street conditions, sometimes people, file a claim against the city because they hit a pothole, but the response has always been denial, and I don't understand why. Maybe you could explain that.
Yeah, so it's, there you have a reasonable duty. So let's talk about the potholes. And again, it goes back to the legislature. So nobody else is going to take care of the streets and roads other than the municipality or the county. And so potholes, are not considered compensable claims in Wisconsin. However, if you know there is somebody tells you we have an extremely large pothole, you have to do a reasonable amount of time to go fix it. If you become aware of the situation and then don't react to it, then you could have an issue. But if it's, it's hard to track all the potholes around. And so a reasonable person would say that, well, we can't get to every pothole. Okay. All right. And the first part with recreational vehicles, we have not really seen, I don't think we've had any claims as far as recreational vehicles on city streets, because the city is not negligent in doing anything with that. Still, they have their own personal liability for that, so. We could get into the no-fault sewer and water, but we could go on for a half hour on that one, but
Mr. Werman?
just so you know, you do purchase the no-fault sewer backup coverage. And I want to be, Steve, maybe should I take a minute? Or do you want to get going?
Yeah, no, if you could get in a couple minutes, because I know that the kind of thing that we sometimes get complaints about where a homeowner will say, how come that wasn't covered by the city, and they're not happy.
Okay, half of our municipalities, so we offer what's called no-fault water and sewer backup. Half of our municipalities take it, half of them do not. The city marshal pays for this coverage. Think of it this way, you take care of the sewer, right? You have the sewer, utilities has the water, right? Yeah, okay. So let's say you have let's say you don't purchase the no-fault sewer backup. You do, but let's just say you don't, or a municipality that doesn't. Wisconsin Rapids does not. You have a sewer backup. In the lateral, you're never responsible for the lateral. It backs up in the main. You are not responsible for a sewer backup claim that happens in the main if you do your routine maintenance. So you do this quadrant this year, you do this quadrant next year, you do this quadrant, this quadrant. As long as you have a routine maintenance program set up, you cannot be sued when the sewer backs up and it backs up into a resident's finished basement. Okay, you can see the problem there. Angry resident calls you and says, the city's sewer is backing up into my basement. That's your fault. It's your sewer. Well, it is. But the statutes legislature has said, as long as you do your routine maintenance, the city is not responsible for that. Causes a lot of problems. You get people coming to the council and saying, why isn't the city paying for my sewage and the sewage that's in my basement? Okay, so this evolved into what you purchased. It's called the no-fault water and sewer backup. We will pay those claims. You pay a premium, and we do pay those claims. You have made a philosophical decision as a city at some point that says, we want to pay these claims. Okay, you have the choice to do that. Some cities say, we are immune from prosecution on this. We are doing our routine maintenance. We are not responsible. We're not paying those. It's, again, a philosophical decision that the council needs to make, and you have chosen to do those. And probably you've had a lot of them, and I think you've had a lot of angry citizens here. I believe if we go back prior to me working with the city, I know Keith Stride told me that you had a terrible sewer backup 15 years ago. Our policy limit for that is $100,000. So you have one sewer backup, it affects 10 homes. What we would pay is $10,000 for that. It's my understanding, and Keith was very appreciative of this, that the league insurance, actually that claim ended up being, I don't know what that amount was. I couldn't find it, but it was more than the $100,000 limit. The league paid the entire amount for you. The obligation was $100,000. I don't know what it was, 200,000, I don't know. But the city, the league made a decision that said, we're gonna pay all these claims. So those are some of the things that you get through the association plan. So Steve, were you here when that happened? I don't think so.
But I heard about that from Keith when I came here, that incident had occurred prior.
First thing he told me when I walked into his office, he said, I am so appreciative of the league that you guys paid that sewer backup claim. You paid everybody's claim. I'm not going to say they're going to do that every time, but they made a decision that we're going to pay all of those claims, even though they weren't obligated to do so. So I'm going to wrap it up with there with
Mr. Werman?
Yeah.
Thank you again, Mr. Zaleski, for your presentation. I had two things real quick. One, I did not have a copy of the slides in my folder. If I could get a digital or...
What did you have?
I did have the rest of the paperwork, just not the slides. So if I could get a copy of that.
I've got an extra one, yeah.
Thank you. And then secondly, I just wanted to ask about the grants that were on the dividend page in the larger packet, and just get a better understanding of that. I see obviously the safety grant for the last, 6-7 years. And then there's the Parks and Rec grant for, I believe this 2021. Just what is the determining factor there? Like, are these proactive grants that the city has applied for? Is this automatically based on something that's in the budget? If you could just walk me through that a little bit so I better understand it.
Good question. So they have, the league has allocated, it's an annual grant, and it's 2% of your workers' compensation premium. So you can look back at what your workers' comp premium is on that spreadsheet, and you should be able to take 2%, and that would be the grant that you would get every year. They might look from the year before. So that's available every year. I just went back to 2017 for that, but it's a great program. And again, it's to promote safety, to have budgets are tight. And so they're trying to provide additional resources for you. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, just then the Parks and Rec one, is that something, I know that one's from 2021, I don't know if you have much info on that, but.
Yeah, it was a one-time deal, and it was kind of towards the end of COVID. I don't remember. It had something to do with maybe with COVID and trying to bring people back out. And so it was a large amount. And I don't remember if that was a percentage. It must have been a percentage of your liability premium. I don't recall, but the league felt it was important to try to get people back out into the community. And so use these funds to improve one of your playgrounds, one of your parks, one of your ball fields, to promote people getting back out into society. I believe that's what that was. It was a one-time deal.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I was asking. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of park refurbishment and things like that go on, and I don't know if those are things that need to be actively applied for or if they're automatically
Yeah,
considered.
no, this was not an application process. This is just something that was, we took all the members of the program and did that, yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions? If not, well, thank you for your presentation.
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
And next up, we have the, let's see, we're on item N.
Yep, correct.
Okay, thank you.
That'll be Jennifer's.
Right. Okay, President. Yeah, Jennifer, go ahead.
Back in December of 2022, the city was approached with an opportunity to have what is commonly called the Buffalo Building donated to the city to be used as a potential new police department. With that, we are currently undergoing or would like to undergo a study in order to determine if that building would be feasible for the city to accept as a donation and then proceed to renovate it as a police department. The cost of the study is $39,800. And what has occurred, or what we would like to occur, is the police had in the current year CIP a budget for $60,000 to replace the roof on the existing building, which is not an imminent problem. So they would like to cancel that project for 2023 and replace it with the feasibility study. In 2024, which you may see on the CIP, either a new roof will come back into the CIP plan, or if the study proves to be that the building is a good location, then we will talk about what we would need to actually redo the building in CIP next year. So with that, I would recommend that council approve budget resolution 07-2023 in the amount of $40,000 for the purpose of a feasibility study for the intended police station relocation.
We have a motion by Giles with a second by O'Reilly to approve the expenditure. Discussion? There being no discussion, are we prepared to vote? Please vote.
Mr. Varsho?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to item O.
Hey, Mr. Wagner,
Yes, sir.
I tried to get your attention with Mr. Zaleski up there, and I didn't want him to leave beforehand.
Oh,
If he could give Mr. Bart the packet that he handed out so that I could pick one up tomorrow and read through that?
I think he's doing it as we speak, sir.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Okay, so let's see. Second reading of ordinance number 1493 prohibiting the dumping of garbage, presented by the city attorney.
Yeah, well, I wrote this one at the request of the police department. We discussed this last meeting, and this was really designed to address what was really going on, primarily dumping in dumpsters at commercial properties of various materials. We did get a few questions from folks sort of asking how this thing would work or whatever, but I'm certainly willing to field any questions that the council has, but otherwise it should be pretty straightforward in terms of language there.
Okay, we have a motion by Stauber and a second by O'Reilly. Discussion. Are you prepared? Okay, please vote.
Mr. Varsho?
Yes.
Item P. Okay, that one passed, and zip. Item P, first reading of ordinance number 1494, rezoning property at 1901 South Central Avenue, parcel 33-03532C to community mixed use planned unit development presented by Steve Barr.
Thank you very much. These next two items are connected with each other. They both involve 1901 South Central Avenue. The first one is largely housekeeping. It has to do with the fact that back in August of 2022, when this was brought forward initially, it was rezoned at that time to a district that does not actually exist as a recognized zoning district in the city. So that's where this comes from. That's where the change is proposed tonight, as was read by the council president. This is a first reading only. There were no comments made about this by the public at the public hearing. Staff will ultimately recommend approval, but at this time, unless the rules are suspended, I would just take any questions and we would set the final action for June 13th.
Questions? No action is required, so we'll move on to the companion
Yes, correct.
ordinance. That is first reading of ordinance number 1495, general development plan for mini golf course on the property of 1501 South Central Avenue.
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to kind of walk through some of the highlights of the staff memo, which you have in your packet. You probably had a chance to read through it, but I just want to hit sort of the high points for this meeting and for the public as well. This property, again, is located at 1901 South Central Avenue. It's across from Central Avenue from the Van de Hey Aquatic Center. That will come up as a point here a little bit later in my comments. The property is currently zoned commercial mixed use or community mixed use. It's about 1.15 acres in area. It's a vacant parcel, been vacant since 2015 when the previous commercial structure was demolished. The surrounding properties consist of 1 and 2 family residential uses to the north and east, mixed commercial uses to the north and south, and the Van de Hey Aquatic Center across Central Avenue to the west. Just a little touch about what planned unit development is for people who don't know what planned developments are. That's to provide for some relaxation of certain requirements and development standards in exchange for some of the higher level site design and architectural control that comes from that. So that's where the idea of this being a planned development comes into play. It consists of only the one parcel, which I said, about 1.15 acres. The proposed site would be used for mini golf course, 18 holes, a building for admissions and concessions, and a parking lot. The proposed parking lot will be located on the west side of the property, will include 34 parking stalls. The mini golf course will be located on the east side of the property and will be surrounded by fencing. Miniature golf courses are considered to be an intensive outdoor recreation use that requires a conditional use permit. However, under this case, with it being a planned development, that can be allowed by right as part of the overall planned unit development. 32 parking stalls required unless the Planning Commission grants exception. The current proposal is for 34 parking stalls, but no landscape islands are proposed in the plan. Staff is comfortable allowing an exception, but would require 28 parking stalls or more in return. The applicant should add 2 landscape islands to the parking lot and provide landscaping near the street and parking area near Central Avenue entrance. The applicant did not submit a landscaping plan initially by the time of the staff report that Bryce wrote last week. The applicant does intend to add landscaping along the eastern property line, along the proposed fence line to serve as a buffer to the neighboring residential properties. No street frontage or parking area landscaping was shown on the plan, but this should be required during the specific implementation plan process, which is next. In fact, this general plan is approved. Stormwater management has not been provided as yet to the Director of Public Works. That will need to be provided because more than 1 acre of land is being disturbed by the project. And this could alter site plan design when it's submitted. There has been a fair amount of discussion about the need for possibly a crosswalk across Central Avenue. The thought being that the area of Van de Hey Waters on the west side and the whole area of Wildwood Park and Zoo is a busy area, and the thought is that people want to cross back and forth to play mini golf. So there's been discussion about possibly a crosswalk, maybe some other improvements to provide safety, possibly some type of lights that might be activated if in fact someone is crossing the street. That's yet to be determined for sure, but this will be addressed as part of the specific implementation plan if the council approves this general plan. So the next steps would be if the council does approve this, and again, this is first reading, just like the ordinance before it, but the council would approve the general development plan, then the developer would submit what's called a specific implementation plan. That will be more in depth, and that will be expected to cover two of the items that I just mentioned, stormwater management and landscaping as part of that plan. That would also have to be reviewed by the Plan Commission and approved by the council. So a public hearing was held on Tuesday, May 16th before the Plan Commission. There were no specific public comments. There was some discussion by commission members, which you can read in the packet. The commission was generally very supportive of the proposed plan, subject to the adding of the additional components for landscaping and stormwater management. This is only a first reading. A second reading adoption would be set for the meeting on June 13th of the council. However, I would take any questions or comments regarding the proposed general implementation plan.
Ms. Tompkins?
Thank you. I have a question about the public hearing. I just wanted to know what the procedure was for notifying the landowners and what information was given to them.
This would have been done by Bryce Hembrook, who does the contract planning work for us, but it's a public hearing, so it would require a public hearing notice. Sitting here right now, I'm not sure if it's a class 1 or class 2. That dictates how far in advance it is required. But all the abutting property owners would have received notification. Anybody within a certain distance, footage distance of the subject property would have been notified of the public hearing on May 16th.
And what information was given to them?
Typically, that would be a staff report and any attachments such as maps or whatever to identify the parcel and perhaps illustrate what the plan is about.
First of all, I love the fact that there's a mini golf. I mean, I love it. It's great for families. Do they know it's a mini golf? Do the property owners know?
That would have been called out in the letter. I don't have a copy in front of me, but it would have called out the purpose of the plan. What would it be used for? Again, mini golf, concessions, those types of things.
Okay. And then finally, I know they haven't submitted the landscaping, and I know that in the packet it talked about a privacy fence and potentially, I forget what those trees are called that grow tall and come together.
Arborvitae.
Yeah, maybe those. But I would say that those would probably be really important to make sure it is a privacy fence and trees that kind of buffer.
And this, sometimes people feel like government is kind of cumbersome. This is really, though, the difference between a general development plan and a specific implementation plan. We would be giving direction to the applicant that things look good, but we do want to see the remaining elements. And in this case, that would definitely include landscaping and stormwater to make sure that the drainage is accounted for.
Mr. Varsho?
I really like this idea very much. I don't see why we wouldn't at least move forward next week. But in the anticipation for that, like Steve said, is there any way that within the next month or so, staff can take a look, or next month, take a look and see where we could put a crosswalk? If we could get flashing lights like they have at the schools where you just press and the lights come on, and kind of what the cost would be involved in that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe that the Director of Public Works, Tom Turchi, was actually at that meeting. And I'm not sure if he's had conversations with the applicant here, but I know at staff level, we talked about what the options might be for A, where that crosswalk would actually be set, and then B, what types of devices, including possibly the one you're mentioning, could be used to provide greater visibility to the crosswalk. I mean, and truthfully, sometimes cars are moving a little faster in that portion of Central Avenue than they should be. So your point is well taken, and that will definitely be addressed.
Mr. Stauber?
I echo Alderman Varsho's comments, generally in favor of the development, but it's going to be the crosswalk that is a deciding factor for me and the safety of the users. I would think that there's probably a business plan developed to determine if it's a viable operation And I would think that it wouldn't be too hard to project user numbers, and one could probably assume that a certain percentage of those users are going to cross Central Avenue to go to get an ice cream cone or something like that. So I would like really some good thought put into that. Thinking back to when we had the ball diamonds put in on Oak, you know, there were many, many comments about children's safety crossing the parkway. And I don't remember the number. I think we spent $250,000 on the overpass, which in hindsight maybe wasn't as used as we expected. But I'm not advocating for another overpass here, but I could see this having much more traffic, pedestrian traffic. And like you said, Steve, the vehicles aren't always adhering to the speed limit. So the main concern for me, and I just hope that we have adequate data to make a decision.
You know, good points. And I think beyond just expecting that a number of people will cross over Central from one use to the other, I think the applicant is hoping that that will happen. I mean, I think we'd like to see people enjoying the south end of town. There have been conversations before about, you know, is there enough to do? Are there enough enemies? That was a bad one. How about enough amenities? Can I try that again? Enough amenities on the south end. This is going to be a great addition, but the safety of people going from one to the other needs to be protected.
Ms. Spiros.
So I just have a couple of questions. Clearly, yes, the safety of people are important. I'm kind of surprised. Am I reading this correct that cost would be pushed off to the developer?
Which cost?
For a crosswalk and lights and all that? Am I understanding that properly?
Are you seeing that in the staff report?
It says, due to the subject property's location across from Bandahay Aquatic Center, a crosswalk may be required to ensure safety of pedestrians trying to use both facilities. Director of Public Works has provided recommendations to the developer regarding location and type of signage and signals to use. The developer would be responsible for the cost of installation. That comes as a surprise to me. Who maintains it? I mean, the people who own the golf course? Does the city maintain it? And did we charge the downtown businesses for crosswalks? It just seems a little, that part is sketchy to me, that gets put off to the people who are building the golf course.
Yeah, quite frankly, the staff report was written by Bryce Hembrook, and he and I did not talk about that. I get your question, and it's a good one. I mean, the developer is certainly increasing activity down there, but does that make him responsible for crosswalk safety? Is a good question. I will look back at that because I take your point to heart.
It just seems odd to me because if the lights break, if they go down, who fixes it? And then who's the cost go to fix it? It doesn't seem, it seems a little bit as a deterrent for people to want to build a business. Because that's going to be expensive. I'm sure that's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. If I recall, Tom talking about the cost of those type of lights, they were quite expensive.
Okay, the number I heard earlier today from Tom Turchi was a bit less than that, but I'm gonna go with your main point, which is whose responsibility is it? You know, is it a shared responsibility? Is the developer partially responsible? Honestly, I haven't talked about this or looked at our ordinance. I get the fact that the developer's project is going to add more traffic and certainly be creating the interest on the east side, but like I said, I'll say it one more time, your point is very well taken.
So, just briefly.
The word from the city attorney, please.
Just, you know, as part of that, anytime you have a development coming in and they're putting it in a particular location, it's a matter of the impact on the city. So it is part of that design plan, and the reason why we have approvals is to take into account what that's going to do in terms of increased traffic, et cetera. So some businesses and some uses are automatic. Those that require this type of development, that's where the consideration comes in when, you know, basically that's the, you know, economic development and public works director, they have that input. So you certainly should get that answer, but we want to be careful that there is a reason why this is designed and developed, where there's some expenses that are incurred by someone coming in and putting in a development in a particular location. Otherwise, you could have someone plop something in the middle of something, we have to start designing streets around it.
Oh.
It's the infrastructure. We do the same thing anytime somebody comes into a residential neighborhood and they're carrying the costs of certain types of public infrastructure that's having to be implemented because they're putting that development in place.
And I guess, you know, and possibly this is a good offline conversation too, because, you know, it's one thing to talk about being responsible for putting in a crosswalk and a sign. It's another, when you think about the cost of that special lighting to activate visibility for people who are crossing. I haven't looked at this issue. I shouldn't be commenting that much on it, but we'll definitely talk about it after this meeting and before the specific implementation plan comes forward.
I'm going to just jump in here. Just anybody that's been down to Wisconsin Rapids recently, especially in the vicinity of the courthouse, they have put two of those wonderful, wonderful roundabouts in close proximity to each other, in close proximity to the courthouse. And they have the difficulty of the parking lots are across the main thoroughfares from the courthouse. So just recently, just today, I noticed they had the push to walk buttons out of those things. They are good. They even in that melee of the two roundabouts, traffic does stop when you try and cross. But the question is who pays for it, and the other question is, I guess, do we often deal with these things as part of a developer's agreement or part of a development plan? And I think we do, but I'll just have to wait and see what the specific implementation plan looks like before I'd be ready to make a recommendation on this. Anybody else? Oh, Mr. Werman.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, I was just going to mention briefly too, if you take a look at the page a little further along in the packet, when we're talking about safety and concerns, the other thing I was thinking about was the driveway access and how tight that looks. So just kind of a general note for the developer for the specific implementation plan for us to really consider that is not just the safety of a crosswalk, but the safety of people having to walk through the parking lot if there's not designated walkways, and then traffic onto and in from Central as we're taking a deeper look.
Any other comments or questions? If not, this one there'll be no action required at this time. The second reading will be on June 13th. Excuse me, are you the developer? Council, would you object to having a word from the developer? Oh, you're just here to answer questions?
Yeah, so Bryce told me that.
I guess, you know, and we can talk more about this offline, obviously, but this issue we've been talking about for the past 5 minutes about responsibility for crosswalk and stuff, was this discussed with you? Because I really haven't been at the heart of that conversation.
I mean, originally when.
Can we have you step to the microphone? Thank you.
Yeah, hey, sorry.
I take it there's no objection.
There really hasn't been anything like specific discussed about like who's going to have what and who's going to be responsible for it to this point. We had the DRT meeting, which we talked with the fire department on the access points, and it was also, we made it 100% ADA accessible as far as the miniature golf course goes itself too. So, but overall, when it comes to the crosswalk, we talked with Tom Turchi on it and discussed that, you know, there would be something set up along the lines of, you know, like anywhere by the hospital, like you guys already kind of said, the schools, where you push the button, it'd be a solar setup, where the lights would be flashing, and then probably some sort of zebra crossing as well to make sure that everybody's well aware that that's a crosswalk area, that there's flashing lights notifying them that people are walking across. And so, I mean, it's been in the works and we've been discussing it with them too, so.
Okay, so we'll look forward to seeing the development plan.
Sure. Was there any other questions that I could, I guess, address that?
I don't have
some
anybody
people asked?
indicating they wanted to ask any questions. So.
Okay.
But thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay, next up, item R. Appoint Christopher Hansen, 915 Adler Road, to Fire and Police Commission for a 5-year term ending in 2028. This was supposed to be presented by Lois, our mayor. I talked to her earlier this afternoon and asked her what disposition she wanted to this. She said that she would like to have us suspend the rules and vote on it as soon as possible because the Fire and Police Commission is trying to make do without that minister. However, the one thing that bothers me about it, I've been advised by legal counsel and also by our clerk that there are some problems with doing it this way. One of them being that if we were to take it off of the, suspend the rules for tonight and vote and proceed with voting on the membership to the commission, and it failed or it went 5-5, we wouldn't have anybody to break the tie. And the other part about that is if it failed, the person would not be eligible for membership on that committee or board for a year. So I have not violated the open meeting law. I've done a head count. So I have no idea which way a vote would go. I'd be willing to entertain some pros and cons from the council if they so wish. Ms. Spiros?
I just have a clarification question on something that you said. You said if this doesn't pass, the person can't be put on the board for a year. What does that have to do with voting on suspending the rules? Wouldn't there be 2 votes? If we chose to do that, we would suspend the rules and then we would vote whether he was on the commission. And I can understand the second one, but the first one, what does one have to do with the other? I'm just asking for clarification purposes, because I don't quite understand that rule.
This is one of those instances where I will not play lawyer. I will talk to the...
There is no distinction simply because you would suspend the rules. That's not a play in it. But what you have is a situation where this was scheduled for only basically an introduction, and you would vote on this a later time. That's how it was noticed up. And we now have the mayor not here, this was her appointment. If she was present and the vote took place and it was a tie, she'd have the ability to break that tie. Now in her absence, we're going to do something out of the usual by suspending the rules and voting on this in her absence. And if it failed, she wouldn't be available to break the tie. So that's the only point. The issue of the individual, if an individual is proposed as a potential candidate and the council does not approve them, that's just one of the rules that after that point, if they are not appointed, they can't, you can't come up for another appointment. Even if there would be a vacancy later in that position, they're ineligible for a year.
Okay, I have Mr. O'Reilly next and then Mr. Varsho.
Thank you. I think given the situation we're in right now, we're kind of in unknown territory when we would have that person back. And it appears to me there's a pretty strong desire to get that position filled for some obvious reasons. I guess I would definitely consider suspending the rules. I think it's the right thing to do at this point, because otherwise we could be here indefinitely for quite a while trying to figure out when we're going to get that odd vote that would break the tie. So just my input.
Mr. Varsho.
When's the next Police and Fire Commission meeting?
June 15th.
We have one of the commissioners here. Do you know the date of the next meeting, sir?
It's a... Yeah. Go ahead.
It's June 15th.
It's June 15th.
Okay. It should be 2 days after the next council meeting.
2 days after.
So yeah, if it's June 15th, then let's say we wait till the 13th and we vote and he gets on and he's at the next meeting. Let's say it fails tonight, then mayor's got to bring another candidate in 2 weeks. I guess either way, I mean, my thought is just to figure it out. They need to get a member on that board, and I agree with Mike O'Reilly.
Anybody else? Oh, yeah, okay, Tompkins next, then Stauber.
Thank you. I would say that I often get many phone calls and many emails before an appointee, before we vote for an appointee. And I would like to give the public that opportunity to contact me as their representative, because this did just come out as a packet. So I think suspending the rules might be too quick for the public to give feedback. And then I do have one other question. Is there a business relationship between the body shop and our police vehicles? So would that be a conflict of interest? Well, I'm asking legally.
The answer is potentially. I mean, it would depend on the very specifics, but you would have a potential conflict of interest in the event that the issue came up, meaning that do we buy a new car that's damaged and needs to be repaired? So everyone could face a conflict of interest on any given specific subject, and you'd have to address it on a case-by-case basis as to whether that's a conflict. In terms of the individual having a conflict just being, approved as a candidate, there's not an automatic conflict just because of that relationship, but there is the potential for conflict on any given issue that could arise.
Right, because he said in his statement he was the owner.
Right. Okay, who was next, Mr.? Oh. Who was? Mr. Stauber, okay.
Drew my question, but on the topic of a precedent, I think we have, I'm reading this correctly, 2 other appointments that we're suspending the rules for. One for board of review and another for.
We have those on our agenda, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not overly concerned that we're suspending the rules in 2 situations and not the third one.
Is there any further discussion? Was that you, Ms. Spiros?
So you brought up a good point. So I'd like for HAP to explain that. So if there's a tie in the next 2 that were requested to suspend the rules, the same thing happens? Those people aren't eligible for a year because no one can break the tie?
Yes, the only distinction is that this was noticed. One was noticed to suspend the rules, or 2 were noticed to suspend the rules, which I'm assuming that Lois had knowledge of. So she knew that that was the case. On this one, it's not. Ed has made a representation. He talked to Lois, and she was asking that these be suspended. And, I certainly respect that. I'm not suggesting that that's not accurate. I'm only saying that it's the scenario that creates that issue, and it's the way that this was published in terms of notice to the public. On the one, you notified them that there was going to be a recommendation by staff to suspend the rules for whatever reason. I don't know the details of that. Steve can speak to it. On this one, it wasn't indicated that that was a recommendation.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering what the difference was. It doesn't sound like there really is one other than what it said on the notice, on the agenda. I mean, there's no difference in the way it would be handled if there was a tie.
Right.
I would like the administrator to address this, and then who is it, Mr. Worman? You'll be after him.
Yeah. The purpose for the board of review, the 2 alternates being listed as being, we're asking to suspend the rules. They actually have a board of review meeting scheduled soon, and we've become aware of the fact that I believe 2 of the existing board members literally cannot make that. So we'd be in an awful bind if we didn't have people to sit in. Now, having said that, typically our policy is to put on these appointments on the agenda always the possibility of suspending the rules and going ahead without waiting till the second meeting. I think in this case, we felt, given what's gone on in this commission with some of the past decisions, that we felt it would probably be best, and Lois agreed, that we just have the 2 readings before picking a member of that commission. We're just coming off a couple of circumstances prior with respect to the Fire and Police Commission.
So it was the staff that decided not put who decided not to put that on there?
Lois, the mayor decided that she did not want to have that option on the agenda. But it would be normally the case. I think normally the case would be that is on the agenda for all circumstances as a prospect, and I get that.
Mr. Werman, you have the floor.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to tack on to Alderperson Tompkins as well, in that, given that it wasn't on the agenda, or there was no notice, I also think personally, I would like to hear from my district and people that live there before we would suspend the rules and make a vote, whereas the other appointees were noted in the agenda and minutes.
Any other discussion? Let me say something here. The risk that an individual who has really given us, he has really made a commitment to serve us in our community on this commission. And basically, what would happen, the worst case scenario, that he would not get that would come to a 5-5 tie, which I think it did to the last appointment to this commission did come to a 5-5 tie.
It did.
And it was, and the mayor chose not to vote on that particular one. So it's not out of the question that could happen. And a person who is, for all intents and purposes, an innocent bystander to our mechanizations of what we do to get an appointment through. I don't want to take I don't want to take a chance on him being damaged by something we do here in haste. And I don't consider it totally in haste. I think the Fire and Police Commission definitely needs that other position filled. I know that. They're operating with a president pro tem. I don't think they've ever had anybody as a president pro tem before. This is unheard of. It's because we've left that position unfilled for, I don't know how long. So the point is, if a vote were to take place, I could not support suspending the rules tonight. I came in here with the determination that I was going to fulfill Lois's wish, but I don't think I can do that without causing damage to a citizen that he doesn't deserve. Go ahead.
Not saying anything to disagree with you, but just to note that until this position is filled with this individual or someone else, they do have 5 members on the Fire and Police Commission. Mike Myers continues to serve until that appointment is made and approved by this body. So you're right about the pro tem thing, but they do have 5 members, and they will have 5 members until someone is given the blessing by council.
And unless there's some more discussion on that, we will move on to the next, what did you say? Oh, yeah, okay. Ms. Spiros?
Okay.
Ms. Stauber, you're on deck.
I can totally understand and agree with that. My only caution is that we are looking at a possibility of an extended time period when the mayor may not be here. And if she makes it to the next meeting, then it's, and she wants to make another appointment, then it's another 2 weeks, and then it's another 2 weeks, because you got to do a first reading, you got to do a second reading. That's my only caution. We're kind of in some uncharted waters, and I think people really need to think that through. They need to think about some strong possibilities that there could be multiple delays.
Thank you. Mr. Stauber, please.
Good conversation. I appreciate the public input concern. During the last Fire and Police Commission meeting, there were things that were done, some motions made that weren't on the agenda. And it's a little concerning for me, and I don't know if the Chairman Pro Tem, Mr. Penker, would like to speak to it, but it almost seemed like last-ditch effort to do things for the city or for individuals. And it was kind of a little bizarre, specifically naming of buildings or facilities or something like that for members of the staff. And I know that the street department has a policy regarding naming of streets. I get a sense that we don't have a clear policy across the board when it comes to that kind of thing.
Mr. Wagner?
It's
let me
the,
One
address-
moment, sir.
Okay,
you're going to be on the scope of the agenda here. We're talking about an appointment, so now you're talking, we can't get into what happened at another.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pinker, although we admire your willingness to speak to us on this issue, I am reminded that we are letting our ruby red slippers come off the yellow brick road, and we're beyond the scope of the agenda item now. So it's my advice that not to get into that. And although I thank you for your willingness to do that, I would prefer that we didn't.
then you have a closed session following this, correct?
Not on this subject, sir.
But on the agenda.
On the agenda, but it has to do with TIF district
Right.
and.
So are you going to have an intermission before you enter closed session?
If we keep going like this, yeah.
What I would like, if you have an intermission, I will address to the alderman directly in the lobby.
That's
that
between you and
particular
him.
point.
I'm not taking any official action on that.
Okay, but so an intermission may not occur.
Our practice has always been to have at least 5 minutes to get to the men's room.
Okay, what I will, so if it does not occur, I invite the alderman to contact me and do so as rapidly as possible.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, item S. This is ironic. Appoint Bill Pinker, 600 Sycamore Avenue, as an alternate to the Board of Review for a 5-year term ending in 2028. And the staff recommendation is to suspend the rules and approve the appointment. What's your wishes? One more time, what are your wishes?
Just to make sure, because I'm sort of whispering here with the city clerk, the understanding as to why we're requesting suspending the rules, that came through in the last item, right? The fact that there's a board of review meeting scheduled that must occur prior to the next council meeting, and we don't have the people to hold it today.
Okay, Mrs. Spiros.
Yeah, that's a little too contradictory for me. To have a conversation about one and then 20 seconds later change our mind. So I would suggest that they delay the plan commission meeting.
Go ahead.
By state statute, we cannot delay that meeting. We are statutorily required to have that meeting before June 6th. And we're required by law, because we're in a reval year, that it has to be a 30-day class 1 notification in order to have that meeting. So I have to have the meeting June 1st. I don't know. I was asked today, what's the what if we don't have it?
Yeah, what if you had 5 people sick that day they called in? I mean, come on.
I would be looking to the legal for that, because it's very spelled out in statute that we must have that first meeting from the fourth Monday in April through 45 days and have 30-day notice of that meeting. So beyond that.
But these are both alternates.
These are both alternates because one member we know is not available. We knew at the time of scheduling, but it was a roll of the dice based on the assessor's availability, the room availability when we actually get that meeting scheduled in 30 days. And the second member who will not be available had a medical emergency while out of the country, and they are not physically able to get back here for a meeting. And Board of Review statutes do not allow any remote meeting. Telephone, video must be physically present, both members and claimant.
Ms. Spiros, do you still need to be recognized?
Yeah, just as a follow-up, so, okay, I mean, that's a very slim window. So I understand that, but I guess we still, are faced with the fact that we don't get to hear from our constituents regarding either of these appointments.
Anybody else? We'll go one more time. Excuse me, who's? Oh, look who's here. Oh.
Brian Moyan. If I can ask.
Let's see, why don't you come up here and have a seat? we're trying to wrangle through this right away. Let me see what I can do here.
been watching, and so, again, as of right now.
We're on the next one. We're on the Board of Review.
So what happened?
Basically, we're let the recommendation stand of waiting until June, what, 15th?
Okay.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
fine, I just.
Yeah, and then we're on the other one now. We're on the Board of Review, the alternates for the Board of Review.
I'll just.
Sure, enjoy. Okay, so one more time. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Varsho.
I will make a motion to suspend the rules and appoint Mr. Pinker to the Board of Review.
Is there a second? One more time. Oh, yeah, there is a second. Mr. Stauber, second the motion. Discussion? There being none, are we ready to vote? Okay, please cast your ballot.
Mr. Varsho,
Yes.
And I, one absent. What, how did that?
Oh, that's the mayor.
mayor.
Oh, that's, oh, I see, yeah, that's the mayor, right. Okay, so that's disposed of. Item T, appoint Ken Bargander,
I'm sorry,
206.
Mr. Wagner, that was just to suspend the rules.
Oh,
Now
that's
we
just-
need a
I'm sorry.
motion to
Thank you very
appoint.
much. Okay, the rules have been suspended, so the motion now, we need a motion to approve the nominations of Mr. Pinker. Okay, do we have a, okay, we've got a motion by Tompkins, a second by Giles. Discussion? There being none, all those in favor, oh, vote, sorry.
Mr. Varsho,
Yes.
Okay, and we come up with 10 ayes on that. Okay. Next up is Mr. Bargander at 206 South Hawthorne Avenue as an alternative to the Board of Review for a 5-year term ending 2028. A motion by Stauber, second by O'Reilly. Discussion. So this is to suspend the rules,
Correct.
right?
Yep,
Okay.
correct.
All right, so, so please vote.
Mr. Varsho,
Yes.
Now we need a motion to affirm the appointment of Mr. Bargander. We have a motion by Stauber and a second by O'Reilly. Whoop, no, that's the old one.
sorry, I was writing.
Sorry, my fault. Motion by Stauber, second by O'Reilly. Discussion? Okay, if there's no discussion, please vote.
Mr. Varsho,
Yes.
And this one, I hope that this should be no controversy, I think. We have, anybody have items for the next agenda? Oh, Mr. Varsho, go ahead.
The communications department met yesterday, and during the CIP, he mentioned obviously that their lease is coming up in March of 24. And he has a Marshfield app that is not being used. I would like Tom Lux to make a presentation to the council regarding what that app all entails and what can be done with it, so that we can maybe move that forward a little bit more.
Okay, so it'll be a discussion on facilities for the communications.
Yeah, facilities for the communication department and the Marshfield app that he has.
Okay. That's good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Giles?
Thank you. I've had a few citizens bring up to me the desire to talk about banning cat declawing due to the both physical and behavioral issues that could happen with that. I've also talked briefly with MAPS about it. Learning what I've learned, I think it's a valuable discussion to have in the future.
Steve, you got that?
Yeah, I think and Jessica's got it.
Jessica's got it too. Okay. Anybody else? If not, we'll move on to item V, adjourn to a closed session.
Mr. Werman.
What? Oh, Mr. Werman, I'm sorry. You got to get
Mr.
quicker on the
Wagner, I
trigger.
hit the button. I've had a few citizen comments as well about the upcoming summer school season and the entry exit into the Taco Bell area after their remodel. There is supposed to be just an exit coming out onto, is that Upham? I believe.
Yeah.
It goes in between there. I've had a few citizen comments that there are a lot of people that are still turning into the exit, and they're very concerned with the upcoming summer school season and how many kids will be around that area. So I'd like to just open that up for discussion.
That'll
next
go to
time.
what, the engineering department?
Yeah, and we'll bring a report back from the engineering department.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else? Stauber.
I would like a 5-minute recess, please.
All right. Well, I have to read the magic words. Yeah, okay, give me a chance to read that. Okay, item V is adjourned to closed session under Wisconsin statutes, chapter 19.85, sub 1, sub E, deliberating or negotiating for the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specific public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Specifically, we're going to talk only, well, one of them has been withdrawn for tonight, so we're only going to be talking about development agreement for the project located in TIF District Number 12. So with that, we have a motion by Stauber, a second by Tompkins to go to a closed session. Roll call. Okay, please vote.
Mr. Varsho?
Yes.
Okay, it's voted, passed. We are in recess.